Information shared on the following program is for general information purposes only. It does not constitute legal, tax, investment, or other advice, nor is it intended to recommend any particular investments, products, or financial instruments. Always seek advice from your financial advisor, attorney, or accountant with regard to investment, legal, or tax questions.
Welcome to the only show in the country dedicated to helping savers worry less about money, the Worry-Free Retirement, with your host, nationally recognized retirement specialist and four-time author, Tony Walker.
Well, welcome, folks, to the Worry-Free Retirement. And yes, I am that little man in the sweater vest, retirement planning specialist and fiduciary, Tony Walker. And before we get into the meat of today's show, I wanted to introduce America's favorite financial sidekick. Good morning, Mr. Aaron Orender.
Good morning, sir. How are you this morning?
I'm doing great on this July, 22nd, 2022?
26th.
26, is it? Oh, my goodness.
26th.
Oh, gosh. 26. It's crazy how time is flying. But, well, before we get into the show, normally we kind of have a little monologue and introduction, and I've got so much material to cover today, I really wanted to get right into it. And really the title of the show, I'm going to give you the title, is How Much is Money Really Worth? Here's the key, folks. Listen carefully. When you need it. How much is money really worth when you need it? So this is a very important topic. You'll need to want to stay tuned for this. So if you're retired or nearing retirement, some good stuff coming your way. Aaron, I got to tell you something, though. Really had a good time this past weekend.
Yeah, what'd you do?
Annual trip with a couple of friends of mine, and most of the folks are his buddies, but I always get to tag along. Usually there's 12 of us. Usually we go down to the Robert Trent Jones circuit down in Alabama and play golf down there. But this year we had the pleasure of going up to French Lick, Indiana, just north of Louisville. You ever been up there?
I have, yeah.
Played golf up there?
I have not played golf at the resort. I've been there.
Woo, man, they got the Donald Ross course, which is nice, and then the Pete Dye course. But here's the funny part. We'll get to the show in a minute, folks, but it is funny. So I'm, kind of walking with my bag. Several of us are standing around. We hand it off to the nice gentleman that greets you at the golf course. You know how they grab your bags, and of course, we're in this group, so they've got us all grouped, and we tell him what group we're in. He goes, okay, I need your individual names, and we're rattling them off, and I say, well, my name's Tony Walker, and he stopped. He goes, aren't you that guy on TV? And I said, yeah, I am, kind of puffed up my chest, thanks for noticing kind of thing. And he looked at me real fast, he goes, you're a lot smaller in person.
Oh, wow, I can't believe he said that.
Oh, well, I laughed, and the buddy beside me just cracked up, and I said, hey, that's why they call me the little man in the sweater vest. But by the way, you're on the TV show quite a bit, on the Worry-Free Retirement as the sidekick, and I know you do a lot of skits, and we have you on there. Does that ever happen to you, where you're just out in public and somebody says, hey, aren't you on TV, or seen you on TV?
Yeah, in the 9 years I've been with you, we've been doing our own show, 7 years now, I guess, 8 years, something like that. There's been a handful of times. I remember one time, Sunday lunch after church, Jessica and I were out with the kids at a restaurant, and there was a group of it was two couples, and they were both in their 60s easily, and I noticed they kept looking over at us, and I just people are not as slick as they think they are, and I just kind of noticed, and I was like, why do they keep looking over here? And finally one of the ladies got up and came over, and she said, I've seen you on TV before. And I went, oh, okay, you must have watched the Worry-Free Retirement. And she said, that's it. You're on there with Tony. And I said, yes, ma'am, I am. And so they kind of struck up a conversation while I'm sitting there shoveling mashed potatoes in my mouth.
Let me tell you the funniest one up since we're on this kick. I promise, folks, good show coming up. Please bear with us because this is funny. I'm at a local taco joint. I've told this story before, but with me and Susan, same thing happened there, and a guy kept looking at me, kind of walks over. He says, aren't you the guy on TV? And, of course, I'm saying, yes, I am. Well, I thought he was going to go on about me. He goes, hey, by the way, who was that young lady you had on the other day? And I went, Heather Hughes? And he said, yeah, you need to have her on more often.
You need to have her on more, don't you?
So anyway, I would agree. Heather's probably a lot better to look at than me and does know her stuff. But let's get to the meat here, folks. Again, one of my concerns in doing this over 38 years, folks, I've met with over 15,000 savers, people retired or nearing retirement. One of the concerns I have is savers rushing out and buying financial products. They do it all the time. Maybe you've done this recently, or you've fallen victim to this thing of just buying things that seem too good to be true. Then you get into them and you have no clue what they are. And it even gets worse, listen, worse when you go to take the money out and find out that it's not nearly as much as you thought it was, whether it's penalties, we'll talk about penalties on annuities, whether it's interest rate risk from bonds, whether you go to take it out and it's the stock market risk, whether it's back-end loaded products or fees, taxes, it goes on and on. So the theme of our show is, what is money really worth when, not if, when you go to take it out? And what you're going to find out, the financial world knows this gig very well. The problem is savers do not. So when I return, we're going to dive right into our subject matter. So if that's you, if you're retired, retiring soon, do not have a written game plan, do not understand what investments you have, and if you feel like maybe the advisors selling you all these products aren't telling you the full scoop on these products and what they're going to be worth one day, you need to stay tuned. I'm Tony Walker. You're listening to The Worry-Free Retirement. I'll be right back. Wondering how annuity peddlers can offer bonuses of up to 15 or even 20% on your money? Well, as the old saying goes, if it sounds too good to be true, there's always a catch. Here's my thoughts. Don't get stuck in the wrong annuity. Get a free second opinion from one of the leading writers of annuities in the country, Tony Walker Financial. To get started, simply log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com or call 877-499-WALK. Welcome back to the Worry-Free Retirement planning specialist and fiduciary, Tony Walker, along with America's favorite financial sidekick. And, here's what I've noticed in meeting with over 15,000 people. That's right, I've met in person and continue to meet with people, but I've met with over 15,000 savers. You might want to write this down, actually. We're going to go through this because this is really important stuff. Here's what I've concluded about life and money. Number one, and I think most people miss this point, is money is meant to be used and enjoyed. Aaron, in my book, Live Well, Die Broke, the theme of that book really is the whole die broke. This is what people miss. They think, well, why would a financial advisor want me to die broke? That doesn't sound... The point is, we all die broke. You can't take this money with you, right?
What's the thing you say about, the hearses going down the street?
Yeah, they ain't practicing.
They're not practicing.
Okay, so most people wait too long to spend their money, which is really sad. So that's the first thing people don't have. The second thing people neglect is they don't have a written game plan. So if you don't have a written game plan, which we provide all of our clients who want one, quite frankly, at Tony Walker Financial, if you don't have a written game plan, one that you can sit down and monitor, not only with your advisor, but also your family, how in the world are you going to know where you're going? So that's a big issue. A lot of people don't have written game plans. All right, number three, another problem. Many of you, I see this. I get it. I know a lot of you when you were younger in your 40s and 50s, investing in your 401k and the stock market was fine and you were okay with the ups and downs of the market. But folks, now that you're retired or nearing retirement, you've got to pull back on some of this risk. And it's not only stocks, but it's also bonds, which we'll talk about in a minute. But all of this risk, all of this downward spiral of your money, when you're in retirement and you start pulling money out, it could be disastrous. In fact, Aaron, do you remember? I haven't talked much about a gentleman. He was a good friend and mentor of mine. His name was Shelby Smith. Have you heard that name?
I have never heard you say that name
Isn't that
before.
Funny? Okay.
I've heard of Bob Castellone and Brian Tracy. I have never. What did you say? Shelby Smith?
Shelby Smith out of Houston, Texas.
Never heard of that.
Haven't seen Shelby in years. He was a PhD, economics, just a bright guy. But we were talking once about risk and reward, and he had this to say. I don't know if it was his own saying, but I'm going to attribute it to him because that's where I heard it. He said, Tony, remember, risk and reward are traveling companions.
That's right. I like that.
Do you like that? They are not, you can't separate them.
Yeah, they're riding in the same car.
There you go.
Yeah.
So remember that, folks. That's fine. If you want to try to make a lot of money, quote, get a lot of reward, you will. I'm not saying you might. You will have to take risk with your money. So the question is, For savers, remember this show is dedicated to helping savers. We're not talking to investors and speculators. If you're listening to this show and you know for a fact you're an investor or speculator, you might as well turn the channel, because this is for people who are very conservative with their money. They don't like losing a lot of money. I call them savers, people like my granddad. So again, if you don't like risking a lot of money in retirement, why are you risking so much money? You know why I think it is, Aaron? They don't have a game plan.
Yeah. So
they don't understand that in many cases you don't have to take all this risk to be worry-free in retirement, and we can show you how to do that. The fourth one's pretty good. I call it Say Goodbye to Granddad's Retirement. And what I mean by that, I did a documentary. You've seen that documentary I did, didn't you? Called Say Goodbye to Granddad's Retirement. I think I did that like 15 years ago. It's been a while. But the purpose of that was to actually help young people, people Aaron's age, to understand that the granddad's retirement that my granddad had, which included a pension, he called it mailbox money, included a pension, included bank CDs paying 5, 6, 7%. Folks, those days are gone. My granddad died years ago, and so did that type of retirement planning. You do not have the luxury, most of you anyway, of these huge pensions. You don't have the luxury of running down to the local bank and chasing CD rates at 6 and 7% and driving around town, getting all this interest and not having to use your principal. This is not granddad's retirement. You're going to have to be more shrewd with your money. You're going to have to work with somebody like us that can help you eliminate costs. We'll get to cost in a minute. You're going to have a way to keep more of your money. And secondly, you're going to have to realize one reason we use annuities so much is you're going to have some annuities somewhere in your game plan so that you don't run out of money. Annuities are the only guaranteed product that can do that. Many of you have been duped into thinking that annuities are not good. That's because you're talking to investors and speculators. You've got to talk with advisors who work with savers, which is what we do at Tony Walker Financial. And then finally, we get to the last one, and this is you've got to keep your costs down. Aaron, I know you don't run this business, but you probably watch me run the business. I mean, you're a sharp young man. If I were to run this business and never pay attention to costs, we just spent money like crazy. Eventually, what's going to happen to this business?
Oh, it's going to tank. It's going to go down. You're going to run out of money.
Bingo. So what I learned years ago in business, and I haven't always been a great business mind. I've had to learn this world of business. I wasn't trained in business. But what I've learned in time is if you can keep your costs down in business, that means you basically are making more money, right?
Okay.
A lot of people try to make more and more money. Well, you got to watch your costs. To make money, sometimes it costs too much. So a lot of businesses, when they're growing, it's when they're least profitable because it takes so much cost to run the business. So the same way with your personal finance. So let me go over this idea of what are the costs of money. If your advisor, which they don't, but if your advisor would do what we do at Tony Walker Financial and really attack these costs, here's why I'm going to tell you to do this. Okay, so we'll use this by example, Aaron. Let's say, we'll just use $1 as an example. Let's say you work hard here at Tony Walker Financial and Worry Free Production Studios, which is who makes your payroll each month, and you earn $1. We'll just stay with $1. Okay, there's only 3 things that can happen to that dollar. It's in your hands. The first thing is you're going to have to spend money to pay taxes. That's your first cost.
Right.
What else could you maybe incur in terms of those costs? So it's not just taxes that are going to eat away at that dollar. What else could happen?
Well, the second one that always comes to my mind are the fees on it. What are the fees on the money? How much do you need to pay? Like a person to handle your money, something like that. Yeah, that's kind of what I think of.
Yeah, that's very good. So fees are a second cost. Let me fill in there's 4. Do you have the other 2?
Oh, what is the other 2? I mean,
taxes
are usually the first one that comes to my mind because that's what affects me the most right now in my life, in my walk. Fees, I know a little bit about, and then I don't know. I'll take a guess at the other 2. I'll say green money and red money. I don't know. Colors. Green money and red money. I don't know.
It's funny you mentioned that. Years ago, somebody created some software for advisors to use, and they were telling them advisors, hey, just explain this. I think it was green, yellow, and red money or something. It was the goofiest thing. But anyway, so the other 2 costs, folks, that you have to learn to minimize are insurance premiums and then interest. So if you have debt. I had a gentleman came in the other day, Aaron. He had a large 401k. It was about $300,000. He's getting ready to retire, and he admitted he got behind the 8 ball. He had a home mortgage. The interest was too high. He had credit cards. It totaled around $100,000 total. Now, he's getting ready to retire, and he says, Tony, What would you think of me if I told you that I want to take enough money out of this tax-infested 401k, which is going to be a lot of taxes, and I need $100,000 to pay off all this debt? I said, sir, if that's what you want to do, we'll run the numbers for you. So I had TJ and Leanne, who are in our tax department. Again, folks, this was a free service. I ran all the numbers for him. We estimated that in order for him to get $100,000 net, you with me?
Right.
He was going to have to take out about $130,000 out of his 401k first before we managed it to pay it off.
What, you're telling me you can't just take out that $100,000 and there's no taxes, no fees, no interest, and nothing attached?
So, but the beauty of this was we ran the game plan with the money he'd have left, but his cash flow went up because I agreed with him. His interest rates were killing him. And he is just excited. He said, I cannot wait to retire now. I got all this debt off my back, because he knew that the interest on the debt was just absolutely killing him. So in his case, the peace of mind of not having the debt and the interest was worth taking the tax hit on the 401k to get it. Does that make sense? So that's another thing, folks. You are out here listening to these blanket statements. Don't do this, take this. Folks, in retirement planning, there is no one-size-fits-all. I'm telling you, I've done as many game plans as probably anybody in the country. To record, I've overseen over 5,000 game plans, met with over 15,000 people, and I'm not trying to be braggadocious, folks, but I've seen it all. And what I've realized is there, again, no one-size-fits-all. Quit listening to all this dogma and all these one-liners and these blanket statements from people on the radio and TV, wherever. Folks, what you have to do, you have to sit down. If you're serious about retirement and you really want to cut these costs and put more money in your pocket and quit giving all this money away, you've got to meet with a trained retirement specialist. So the point here, now we'll conclude this. We got to take a break. So I conclude it this way, Aaron. So there's 3 things to happen to your money. Number 1, you can incur a cost, which we estimate, Aaron, for most people, that's about 50 cents of every dollar. So in other words, when you earn $1, 50 cents is going right out the back door. Okay. Then you could say, well, I guess I could save money. The financial world tells you to save 10 cents. So that's, what is that? 10% would be 10 cents. So you could save 10 cents, which you might incur more taxes and fees, kind of compounds the problem. But if you did that, if you earned $1, 50% was gone forever due to cost. 10% had to be put back for retirement for savings. That only leaves you 40 cents. Not a lot of money, is it?
No.
So let me ask you this, Aaron. If I could reduce those costs, let's say I reduced it by 20%, that's money you could either do what with? Spend or invest.
Yeah, you could spend it or put it back.
That's right. So folks, if you don't have an advisor who's thinking like that, if you feel like all they want is your money and make money on your money and you don't even understand these products, why don't we talk? My name's Tony Walker. I'm the owner of Tony Walker Financial, and we have offices in Bowling Green, Louisville, and Lexington, Kentucky, and we would be happy, more than happy, to look at your situation and provide you a free assessment. All you got to do is log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com, TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Click on that confidential button that says Let's Get Started, and we will arrange a 10-minute free fiduciary phone call to talk to you. And if it warrants, happy to meet with you in person at no cost or obligation. Or if you'd like, just give us a call at 877-499-9255. That's 877-499-WALK. All right, when we return, we're going to talk about all the products you could invest in, and we're going to talk about something called bonds. And why have bonds been tanking, seriously tanking in 2022? Good stuff coming your way. You're listening to The Worry-Free Retirement. We'll be right back. Have you recently retired, been laid off, or offered a pension buyout? Has the company you work for moved, been acquired, or closed its doors forever? And finally, do you have a 401k with a previous employer you'd like to move to safer territory? Then take advantage of this opportunity to move your 401k or lump sum pension to Tony Walker Financial. Let's meet in person to discuss your retirement options. Log on now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com to schedule your free, no obligation appointment. Let us help you today. With the uncertainty of the stock market, now may be the best time to consider moving your 401k to safer territory. To talk to me at no cost or obligation, simply log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com.
Welcome back to the Worry-Free Retirement, folks. I am America's favorite financial sidekick, Mr. Aaron Orender, and I just wanted to remind you, if you want to listen to this show in its entirety, if you're just now tuning in and thinking, man, I wish I would have caught those 4 costs of money that Aaron did not know, all you got to do is go to SoundCloud.com. That's SoundCloud.com. And right there in the search bar, just type in the Worry-Free Retirement. Click search, and you're going to see Tony's awesome bobblehead. Click on that, and you can listen to this show in its entirety, and you can listen to all the past radio shows. Now, if you want to catch the television show, but for some reason can't catch it live on TV, no problem. We got you covered there as well. All you got to do for that is go to YouTube.com. That's YouTube.com. And in that search bar, just type in Tony Walker Financial, and you'll see Tony's smiling face. Just click on his face, and you'll see all of our video content.
All right, thank you, Aaron. So in our time remaining, I really wanted to address a couple of things if we got time. But the first thing I want to address is something called bonds. That's B-O-N-D-S. So this is an investment that's been around for years. Wall Street's used bonds. We've used bonds. We still do to this day in our Charles Schwab platform. But I'm seeing something I've never seen before, and that's both the stock market, again, as we record this show on July 26th, 2022, both the stock market and the bond market both going down. So let's focus on these bonds. First of all, what is a bond? Well, a bond is really a loan. It's between you're the lender, and an institution that needs your money. So let's take a school bond. You know, you've got Jefferson County Schools or Fayette County Schools or Warren County Schools. They're building these buildings, and they're running a lot of these buildings and building equipment and all the stuff that they need by borrowing money from people. That's you and I. It's called a bond. So, in fact, I recently met someone the other day that's with a broker, and they gave me a whole list of bonds that the broker has purchased for them. So let me kind of go through this. And again, if you're just now joining us, the theme is, what is my money worth when, not if, I need it? It's not what is it going to be worth in the future and projected, but what is it worth when I need it? So I'm going to point out 2 bonds. This person had a ton of bonds, but these were individual bonds. I won't name who they bought them from or what the bonds are, but the first bond has something called a maturity date. The maturity date means when you could get all of your original principal back. Okay, now keep in mind, this is the year 2022. This particular bond's maturity date is 2051. Now, folks, that's called the duration. That's a long time to guarantee to get all your original principal back. I mean, 30 years or something? And they're only paying 2.25% interest. So what you're doing is you're giving up control of your money. Let's say it was $10,000. I'll show you this actual return here in a minute. You give the utility or whoever's borrowing this money from you $10,000. They've agreed to pay you 2.25% interest all the way to 2051, which is okay. That's not a bad deal. It's not a lot of money, but okay. But what if, let's imagine you have a child that needs a wedding paid for. I had that happen the other day. Somebody had to grab a bunch of money for a child's wedding. What if you had an emergency? What if your home has to be remodeled? What if you downsize and need more money than you thought for the next? I mean, the list of things you might need money for can go on and on. So today, again, in July 22nd, and it's listed right here. I mean, the person didn't know what they were reading, but I said, let me see that statement. Okay, let's go with this. So set it up the stage again. The person several years ago bought this bond for $10,000. In other words, they loaned this money to the institution who borrowed it from them. The institution is guaranteeing them 2.25% interest, really not a lot of interest, until the year 2051. That's called its maturity date, which at that time, no matter what happens to the bond, in 2051, this person will get their $10,000 back. But what happens? Life happens, and they need this money. So because interest rates since that time, the Fed has raised interest rates, the interest rates are so much higher. Heck, right now, as of the day of this recording, we can get a fixed interest annuity for you, guaranteed 4%. I mean, why would you want to top your money that long in this bond, in this example, for 2.25? So if the person said, well, I don't care, I want my money, give me that money back. Will the institution give you the money back? Yeah, they will, but because interest rates have gone up, which pushes bond values down, this person would lose $3,300. In other words, lose 23% of their money. So you say, what's that translate to, Tony? Well, it means that $10,000, if they liquidated this bond midstream because interest rates have gone up, they're only going to get back about $6,600. We say, well, Tony, what's the solution? Can't I just go to a lower duration, a lesser time? Well, sure you can. In fact, that's what this person did. We go on down the list of all these bonds this person's got. Apparently the broker found him a bond with some Texas municipality somewhere. This one has a maturity date of 2035. Again, that's still 13 years away before they're guaranteed to get all their money back. It's paying 2.75, a little higher interest rate, still not that high. But again, we've got the same problem. Because it's a lower duration, a tad higher interest rate. If this person said, Tony, I need my money when I need it, partner, I can't help it, I got to have it. They call the broker, they liquidate the $10,000, they're only going to get around $9,000 or a loss of 6%. So, folks, if you're out here shopping for bonds, looking for bonds, going through the old rudimentary thing that the Wall Street's always said, you just need a mixture of stocks and bonds to diversify, that ain't the case anymore, and that's a losing strategy right now. And at Tony Walker Financial, we can help you figure out how to do this without tying up all your money long term, how we can couple our split IRA concept to do both, to give you maximum flexibility, to use and enjoy the money when you need it, not if you need it, okay? And there are lots of things, Aaron, I mean, there's all kinds of stuff I could think of. I named a few things, but, weddings, kids need something, furnace goes out, I decide to take a trip, car blows up, I need a new car. I mean, has that ever happened to you where you've been just all of a sudden something pops up out of the blue that you just did not expect and you need money now?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You said cars. I mean, I've definitely had situations where, it's like cars are not cheap anymore for a couple of reasons. One, because I think everything's almost electronic and electronics just seem to cost more. But two, we're also just in a day and age where, I remember my dad and my grandfather, they fixed their cars.
That's right.
They did that. They rarely took it to a shop. If it went to the shop, it was probably on its last leg, I mean, they fixed it.
Yeah, so that's the point, folks. We're in a new age now. There's things that can come up, which is why you've got to have a plan that includes both growth. If you want to take a little bit of risk, remember, risk and reward are traveling companions. If you want a little bit of growth, a little bit of risk, we can do that for you in our Charles Schwab platform. But if you're looking for some accessibility to your money, a way that you can try to stabilize your accounts, a way that you can get access to money, a plan that allows you to invest money so you won't run out of money in the future, why don't you contact us at Tony Walker Financial? In fact, several years ago, I created something called the Split IRA concept. And although it's perfect for 401k rollovers, 403bs, IRAs, it also works with brokerage accounts, inheritances, and its function is this. It falls into the philosophy of the worry-free retirement. We want to provide you maximum use of your money, maximum flexibility of your money, and maximum control of your money. Oh, incidentally, folks, this is coming up a lot. A lot of you don't realize this, but this is something you might want to take advantage of. If you are over the age of 59 and a half, listen carefully, and we've done this for years. Many of you don't realize you're despondent over your 401ks. You don't feel like you got any good selections. The money's all locked up in these 401ks with no other options other than what Wally World's offering. Why don't you do this? Contact us immediately. Let us show you how our split IRA concept can work, because if you're over the age of 59 and a half, without any penalty or taxes, in most cases, you can roll that 401k over, again, with no cost, taxes, we'll show you how to do this, and put it in Tony Walker Financial's split IRA concept so that we can better set up a game plan for you to manage this money better, oversee it better, and of course then you'll have local trained retirement planning firm of Tony Walker Financial to help you along the way. So this sounds like something you'd like to do. If you want a second opinion on your money, if you're tired of people just peddling products with no game plan and you're not sure what the heck's going on, why don't you do this right now? Why don't you log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com, TonyWalkerFinancial.com, click on the Let's Get Started button, or just simply call us at 877-499-9255. That's 877-499-WALK. Well, that's all the time we have for today. We certainly enjoyed being with you, but you remember, between now and next week, if all else fails, you be worry-free. Make it a good one.